Good evening and welcome to this regular meeting of the Council of the Municipality of North Perth. Our meeting date is Monday, February 5th, 2024. I'm Mayor Todd Kasenberg and I'll call this meeting to order. I ask the clerk to note our starting time for the minutes as 7 p.m. A warm welcome is extended to councillors, staff, delegations, and observers who will participate in this meeting, regardless of whether they are physically in attendance in the council chamber in Listowel or being connected through web technologies. We begin tonight's meeting with the playing of O Canada. Those in chambers, as able, are invited to stand. We acknowledge that we are on the traditional land of the Anishinaabe peoples. We wish to recognize the long history of Indigenous peoples in Canada and show our respect to them today. We recognize their stewardship of the land. May we all live with respect on this land and live in peace and friendship. Tonight's meeting is being streamed live on the Municipality of North Perth YouTube channel and will be available there after this meeting as an archive video. To those viewing this meeting via the YouTube channel, a warm welcome is extended to you. To those present in the gallery today, by attending a public meeting of the Council, you are consenting to your image, voice, and comments being recorded. Anyone who is invited to speak will be recorded and their voice, image, and comments will form part of the live stream. The chair and/or the clerk have the discretion and authority at any time to direct the termination or interruption of live streaming. Such direction will only be given in exceptional circumstances when deemed relevant. Circumstances may include instances where the content of debate is considered misleading, defamatory, or potentially inappropriate to be published. Attendees are advised that they may be subject to legal action if their actions result in inappropriate and/or unacceptable behavior and/or comments. Thank you. At this time, I invite your decorum over the course of the coming meeting. We have regrets tonight from both Councillor Andreessen and Deputy Mayor Doug Kellum. Let's move to item 5 on our agenda pertaining to pecuniary interest. For the benefit of those unfamiliar with our council practices, provincial legislation requires councillors with a potential pecuniary or financial interest in any item at the council table to declare this interest and to remove her or himself from discussions and voting on the item. In accordance with recommended protocol at this time, I invite all councillors with a perceived pecuniary interest, including those who have declared in writing, to verbally advise the chair in public session and to submit documentation to this effect in writing to the clerk. Councillors are further reminded that should a potential conflict arise during the meeting, they may so declare and act at any point in the meeting. Colleagues, I turn to you. Anyone wishing to make such declaration this evening? Not seeing any indication of that. My role as chair, of course, prompts me to manage the flow of the proceedings tonight and largely in accord with our agenda. We usually do have some participating remotely by web conference. Should they wish to speak, they may draw the attention of the clerk to this using the conference technology's text chat function. If technical difficulties arise for remote participants, I will certainly advise. Let's focus now on the people's business. Part of that focus is achieved when those in the chamber silence and put away their phones. Regarding item 6 of our agenda, I have a motion before me for the approval of tonight's agenda that reads as follows: that the agenda for tonight's meeting be approved. Can I call on a mover? Councillor Anstedt, thank you, and Councillor Richardson will be our seconder. Any discussion or debate? Seeing none, let's have that vote. Sorry, and that is carried. We're now at item 7 on our agenda, the so-called consent agenda. Consent items are placed on our agenda because they're believed to be non-contentious, yet they may warrant council's recognition and or action. Grouping them expedites our business. However, any councillor wishing to extract an item from the consent agenda for discussion, debate, or individual action may do so. There are 16 items on the consent agenda tonight, including the minutes of our last regular council meeting. Councillors, anything to extract here or any corrections to be noted to the minutes? Councillor Rothwell.
Good evening, Mayor Todd, members of council, staff, and public. Item 7.5, the Police Services Board meeting agenda, please.
Anyone else wishing an extraction at this point? All right, Councillor Rothwell, why don't we turn to you? Go ahead, please.
Thanks very much, Mayor Todd. And going through the agenda package there, there's mention of the changing of the act dealing with police services boards and so on, and appointments thereof. And I'm just wondering, since you're one of our members, if you could just highlight for council so we understand what the timing of that will be and how North Perth is going to be represented on the new board, if I can call it that. There were some elements of that in the report. I just didn't understand or see if there was anything more specific. Thank you.
So my understanding is that the province has indicated that the regulation and the act will come in force as of April 1st. At that point, there is intended to be an orderly transition to a new police services board that represents a more regional focus. I believe that there are representatives from each of the councils, one from each of the councils that are involved in the police services board for the area. And I believe there are a few provincial appointments as well. We're not certain exactly how that will be taken care of in the month of April or ahead of the month of April, but we anticipate that there will be some provincial announcements pertaining to these provincial representatives. And in due course, this council will have a nominee put forward, largely the function of our usual committee appointment process. The deputy mayor, myself, and the CAO will meet to that end to determine who the appointee from council might be, and there certainly will be some correspondence pertaining to this. Go ahead.
Just further one question. I was just wondering if there was any thought from the province in terms of representation by population of the jurisdiction that they're dealing with. But my only concern is this, is that there's some parts within that those areas where they've got significantly less population. That's the only concern I have. And they may very well have policing issues or concerns that are different from ours based on the voluminous report that we saw from the board. I really appreciate the information from the board. It's just a matter that clearly we have a number of issues that I think we have that perhaps some other jurisdictions wouldn't. Thank you.
Fair enough. I think I will call on CAO Snell in a moment. I will comment that the province did consult with the lower tiers who were involved in this proposed amalgamation. And certainly the strategy was agreed to and developed in terms of the composition of the board. Locally, that proposal was put forward to the province, and the province did approve that proposal. CAO Snell, did you want to add or build on that?
Thank you. Good evening, Council. Just a couple of comments. So on Wednesday last week, the province did finally post on the regulatory registry the regulation for the Police Services Board. So it's open for comment until February the 13th. There was not any surprises really in my reviewing of the regulation. The interesting part, even with the creation of the new detachment boards, the municipalities will still set their own level of service, and that the billing will be done as it always has been through individual billing to each municipality. So the one thing the new boards actually not really going to set is the level of service. That will be a decision made by council. So if we want to continue with a sergeant and a detachment clerk, all those sort of things, that will be established by council. And so that will be taken away from the board's powers and given to the council's powers. So hopefully, as Councillor Rothwell suggested, our needs may be different than other needs, but the council should be able to establish that level.
Right. Thank you very much. Yep. Okay, thank you. Anyone else with business related to the consent agenda before we get there? Okay, not seeing any, so I have a resolution then for consideration as follows, that consent items 7.1 to 7.16 be received for information and the minutes of the January 15th, 2024 regular council meeting be adopted. Moved by Councillor Rothwell, seconded by Councillor Johnston. Any discussion or debate? Seeing none, let's have that vote. And that is carried. Thank you. All right. This time it's proposed that we move to agenda item number 8. Our agenda indicates that we will now entertain a delegation. I remind the delegation that in accordance with Council's procedural bylaw, a total time of 10 minutes per delegation is permitted, and that includes both presentation time and providing an opportunity for councillors to ask questions. Delegation is to present on the topic declared on the submitted request for delegation form, and deviations from the topic are not acceptable to the chair or this council. As always, we expect respect and courtesy, which inherently includes not using names of those who have not consented to such use. As item 8.1, we are joined by Mr. Kyle Girardeau, a resident and ratepayer who wishes to address council about the subject of introducing an open public forum to our council meetings. Mr. Girardeau, the floor is yours if you'll come forward to the podium.
Good to go? Okay. All right. That's quite loud. Hello, everyone. I'm here today to discuss an open council meeting so that there is a public section. This section will be uncensored or reviewed, allowing the taxpayers of North Perth to voice their concerns in a manner that is justified by the Charter of Rights. Over the next 10 minutes, I will express my concerns, legislation, and examples of why this is needed. First of all, Mr. Todd Kasenberg, are you head of this council tonight?
I have been elected and have taken an oath to that effect, yes.
Okay. Does the council agree with this statement? The municipality must also ensure compliance with the Municipal Freedom of Information and Protection and Privacy Act, and as such, all delegates shall refrain from identifying any person by name during their delegation to council.
I think you may be under the misconception that this is a question period for you. This is a delegation period, and it's not up to council at this point to respond to your questions.
That's fine. I'll continue. So, that was sent to me by a member of North Perth as a censorship to say, I'm not supposed to do that. So that is why I asked that, because I was looking for confirmation of this. And the fact that it was sent to me, I believe that that is your policy. Now, that policy does not agree with the following statement. Everyone has the following fundamental freedoms: the freedom of conscience and religion, the freedom of thought, belief, opinion, and expression, including freedom of press and media of communication, freedom of peaceful assembly, and freedom of association. Now, it doesn't actually say freedom of speech there, but that's because in Canada we have a lot more rights, and freedom of expression includes freedom of speech. If it's like a subsection of it, freedom of expression has a large block. So today, I'm going to give you 2 examples of why I'd like to uncensor the council so that people can express themselves and their concerns over, I would say, technicalities. So, so over the last several days, I've gone through this process to attend this meeting. To do so, I've had to submit a slideshow and talking points to review. I was told by the acting clerk that I was not to discuss certain sections of what I had to submit. Also, I was not to name any individuals while communicating with the council. I asked what legislation allowed this request and was given this information. Use and disclosure of personal information, section 31 and 32. Now, it is actually of the Municipal Freedom and Information Protection and Privacy Act, section 31 and 32. So, let's review it. 31. An institution shall not use personal information in custody or under its control except if a person to whom the information relates has identified that information in particular and consented to its use. For the purpose for which it is obtained or complied, or for a consistent purpose. Or C, for a purpose to which the information may be disclosed to the institution under Section 32 or under Section 42. So, that there doesn't say anything there about me using anyone's name. Any objections to that? You don't have to reply, obviously, because you just stated that. So, Section 32. An institution shall not disclose personal information in its custodial or under its control except in accordance with Part 1, if the person to whom the information relates has identified that the information in particular and is consented to its disclosure for the purpose which is obtained or complied, or for a consistent purpose. If the disclosure is made to an officer, employee, consultant, or agent of the institution who needs the record in the performance of their duties, and if the disclosure is necessary and proper in the discharge of the institution's functions. Where the permitted or required by law or by a treaty, agreement, or arrangement made under an act or an act of Canada. Now, you could say the Fundamental Freedoms Act, Charter Rights, number 2, would be an act of Canada, but we don't even have to get into that because it isn't even needed. If disclosure is by a law enforcement institution to a law enforcement agency in a foreign country under an arrangement, a written agreement, or a treaty or legislation authority, or to another law enforcement agency in Canada. To an institution or law enforcement agency in Canada if the disclosure is to aid or in an investigation undertaken by the institution or agency with the view to law enforcement proceeding, or there is a reasonable basis to believe that an offense may have been committed and the disclosure to enable this institution or agency to determine whether to conduct such an investigation. In compelling circumstances affecting the health or safety of an individual, upon disclosure, notification is mailed to the last known address of the individual to whom the information relates. In compassionate circumstances to facilitate contact with the spouse, a close relative, or a friend, or an individual who is injured or ill or deceased. So, that's 32. That says nothing about using someone's name. So, we'll go on here. There are more sections of that, though. To the minister, to the Information and Privacy Commissioner. So those are the last 2 I just missed because it's on the next page. So this is the problem, is I was given 2 sections of an act that's very large, and I was told you cannot voice your opinion on this or say someone's name due to this section. Well, that section doesn't state anything like that. And if you look at the whole act and you look at the definitions of what personal information is, which I have right here and I will review, it shows that this here has nothing to do with what it's trying to be used for. So, personal information, this is right from the Act, this is what it's defined as in the Act. So legally, if they say, okay, you're using personal information, well, what is personal information? Well, the Act defines it, so you have to go and look at the definition. It means recorded information about an identifiable individual, including, now, this is recorded, we are being recorded. But this is also if it was recorded and you were to look it up after. Information relating to race, national or ethnic origin, color, religion, age, sex, sexual orientation, or marital or family status of the individual. Information relating to the education or the medical, psychiatric, physiological, criminal, or employment history of the individual, or informed relating to financial transactions in which the individual has been involved. Any identifying number, symbol, or other particular assigned to the individual. The address, telephone number, fingerprints, blood type of the individual. The personal opinion or views of the individual, except if they are related to another individual. So I can't say, this person thinks this about that. I don't want to say any names because it would upset you. Or Kyle Geardot, if you were to say, Kyle Geardot thinks oranges are red. You can't do that. Then the last one, which is the only mention of an individual's name, if the individual's name appears with other personal information relating to the individual, or where the disclosure of the name would reveal other personal information about the individual. So if you had someone's mail and you were like, here, and it had the address, or anything above this section, it would reveal, then you couldn't use that person's name and that information together. So using someone's name is not against this municipal act, but I was told it was several times. So this act is trying to be used for something other than its true intention. The purpose of this act is to provide the right of access to information under the control of institutions in accordance with the principles that information should be available to the public, that goes, sorry, I messed up there. There's three of them. Necessary exemptions from the right of access should be limited and specific, and decisions of the disclosure of the information should be reviewed independently of the institution controlling the information. That's more like a business collecting information for you and trying, so when you sign up for a website or something, they can't sell your information.
2 more minutes.
So, to protect the privacy of individuals with respect to personal information, but to themselves, held by institutions, and to provide individuals the right access to that information. Also, I am not an institution, so Section 31 and 32 do not apply to me. I'm not going to read the definition, but trust me, I'm not an institution. This act is to stop institutions from disclosing personal information that has been gathered and recorded. It's not intended to be used by a municipal employee to imitate individuals that do not express their freedom of expression or speech. If this is true, no news station could use a person's name without consent. No school could announce student names in assembly without consent. And subsequently, that would mean each of you could never mention anyone's name within these meetings without their consent. So I went on some of the old tapes of the council, and I have seen people use people's names, and I am pretty sure they didn't have consent because they were just referencing them, saying they've done a good job out in the community, and I'm going to bet money that there was no consent to that. Now, my example 2 is, I spoke with the fire chief about a homeless in camp. I requested to be cleaned up. I was informed that Stratford Housing was aware of the situation, and it was being dealt with by trained professionals. Stratford Housing also stated homeless still lived there. I monitored and documented the site for over 5 months and saw no one living there and no mess until it was not cleaned up. The reason this is relevant is because Stratford Housing is a voluntary service, meaning that if the homeless says no to help, they can't help, which then Stratford Housing states, we are aware of the situation, but nothing gets done because the homeless refuse help. Now, I can't set a complaint to bylaw.
I think I'm gonna cut you off here because I think that you're representing a storyline that I'm not convinced actually speaks to the delegation purpose, which was to open up a section of the council meeting, and to err in this domain when you've already been told that there are alternative strategies for addressing your concerns with regards to governmental performance around these things, I don't think is appropriate at this council meeting, given the delegation request and given that there are other paths for you.
Well, it's not so much about the topic; it's about the loop of the like the fluke in the system.
But you know what? You're dropping all kinds of suggestions, what you perceive as facts, on this table, and I don't think that we have the appropriate time or the intention on our agenda to have those who you are suggesting have perhaps not performed to your satisfaction respond appropriately. So I think we're going to cut you off there. One last sentence about your proposal for an open session of this council meeting, and then we're done.
This is exactly why we need an open council.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Giordano. And I think that was 10 minutes. So does anyone have a priority question at this point? I'm not seeing any. Thank you.
Are you going to vote if there's going to be an open council or not?
I'm going to ask the question, is there a will of council in this matter at this point in time? I'm not seeing any councillor raising their hand, so at this point, nothing further.
You all have a good day.
All right, colleagues, let's move forward here. Change the camera view on the panel. That brings us to item 9 on our agenda, reports from departments and key staff. We have an item tonight from the Manager of Development and Protective Services. As item 9.1.1 on our agenda, we have a procurement matter for vehicles for the corporation. This procurement proposes award of contract to Trillium Ford Lincoln of Mono, Ontario for hybrid SUVs. This is an interdepartmental acquisition, and it appears that our Manager of Protective Services and Development, Jenny Pape, will speak to this one. Ms. Pape, you're welcome to take the floor.
Thanks, Mayor Todd. Good evening, Council. A request for proposal for 3 new hybrid SUVs, 2 units for Development and Protective Services, and 1 unit for Environmental Services Department was recently issued. The proposal closed on January the 31st with 7 submissions received. Evaluations were conducted based on the following criteria: vehicle specifications, vehicle delivery schedule, and proposal pricing. Through the evaluation, it was determined that Trillium Ford Lincoln Limited was the recommended vendor with the highest overall score for the supply and delivery of 3 new 2024 Ford Escape hybrid electric SUVs, with the recommended highest scoring bid coming in at $126,881.85, excluding HST. This works out to $42,293.95 per vehicle, which falls within the department's capital budgets. It is therefore recommended that the Council of the Municipality of North Perth awards the request for proposal NP 003-24P supply and delivery of 3 new hybrid SUVs to Trillium Ford Lincoln, Mono, Ontario, in the amount of $126,881.85, excluding HST. I'd be happy to answer any questions Council may have at this time.
All right, thank you, Chief Pape. Colleagues, any questions or comments on this one? I'm not seeing any to that effect, so let me turn to the resolution as follows. The Council of the Municipality of North Perth awards request for proposal NP-003-24P, supply and delivery of 3 new hybrid SUVs to Trillium Ford Lincoln Limited, Mono, Ontario, in the amount of $126,881.85, excluding HST. Can I call for a mover? Councillor Richardson, seconded by Councillor Blazek. I think I saw you wave your hand. Sure, she says. Good. Any discussion or debate? Councillor Rothwell.
Thank you very much, Mayor Todd, and thank you, Chief Pate, for your report. I appreciate the work and effort that you and other staff have done on this important project for our departments. Again, during the budget discussions, we were talking about not only the vehicle types, but also the environmental footprint of these purchasers, and I believe that we're making a wise choice in terms of a hybrid looking forward into the future. And I think the estimated time frame that we have for vehicles is somewhere between 6 and 7 years, if I'm not mistaken. So hopefully this decision is going to be paying dividends both monetary as well as environmentally into the future. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to comment? All right, seeing none, let's have that vote. And that is carried. Thank you. Thanks, Chief Pape. Next up, in item 9.1.2, Council is asked to grant an exemption from part lot control to Euro Custom Homes for lands on Keeso Lane in the list to award. This is usually done to allow lot line adjustments, including the creation of new lot lines in a parcel that is developed. County of Perth Planner Nathan Garland is with us to explain and answer questions. Mr. Garland, let me get the camera on you here. And the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mayor Kaysenberg, members of North Perth Council. I have 2 short slideshow presentations here for these 2 applications to go through for your information. So this application is for Part Lot Control Application 8, 2023. It is for Euro Custom Homes as the applicant and builder. The location is Block 66, Plan 44M74. The municipal address is 200 to 256, so there are several units in there. List of award, Municipality of North Perth. So the exemption is a request to create 10 units, 10 individual freehold units, which can then be sold to owners. They are located along there. You'll see the strip partition through there. There are, I believe it's 2, 4, 6, and 8 as upwards. And then the adjacent or rear portions of the property and parts will be conveyed as easements or access easements, drainage easements through those rear yards to provide for access or drainage across the adjacent lands. Just a couple pictures of those units. So they have been built there along Keeso Lane. So they are constructed. I believe they're not quite occupied, or maybe a few of them might be occupied, but not quite yet. And so it's just some planning information for your information. So it is part of a previously approved plan of subdivision, so that's part lot control requirement. So to be exempt from part lot control, it has to be part of a plan of subdivision. It is within the R5-14 zone, so the 14 zone has a bit of a specialty, but it generally falls within the R5 provisions of the zoning bylaw. So the R5-14 just speaks to some side yard setbacks that don't apply in this case. You'll notice in the plans, if you're going to zoom in on them, the encroachment of the covered porch does encroach within the front yard setback that is provided or allowed under the zoning bylaw, and the units are built and it's surveyed, so that's one of the benefits of the part of lot control because it's established that way. And so it is my recommendation that the Council of Municipality of North Perth approves the applications for Henry Fry of Euro Custom Homes for the exemption of part lot control on lands described as Block 66, RP 44M74, 200256 Keeso Lane, list to award Municipality of North Perth, and to forward it to the County of Perth for approval, and that the approved bylaw be provided to the Municipality of North Perth be registered on title. I'm happy to address or answer any questions at this time.
Great, thank you, Mr. Garland. Thorough as always. Colleagues, questions or first comments on this? Okay, so I get to read that resolution again. Resolution as follows, that the Council of the Municipality of North Perth approves the application by Henry Fry of Euro Custom Homes for the exemption of part lot control on lands described as Block 66 RP 44M74 200 to 256 Keso Lane, Listowel Ward, Municipality of North Perth, and forwards it to the County of Perth for approval, and that the approved bylaw be provided to the Municipality of North Perth to be registered on title. Approved bylaw be provided to us or by us?
The approved bylaw comes, so you approve the bylaw, then it comes back after the County of Perth has signed off, so it's returned back to be registered.
Okay, thank you. All right, can I call for a mover? Councillor Rothwell, thank you. Seconded by Councillor Nordham. Any discussion or debate? Seeing none, let's have that vote. And that is carried. Thank you. Groundhog Day here, folks. Very similar request. Same developer owner, even the same street in Listowel Ward, and the same planner standing at the podium. So once again, Mr. Garland, and perhaps with more gusto.
Thank you, Mayor Kaysenberg, members of council. This is not deja vu, so this is application for part lot control. It's actually an extension of an existing bylaw, so you've already passed this one previously, but it has since expired. For 9/2023 by Euro Custom Homes. The block is 66, Plan 44M72 this time, and the municipal address is 312 and 320 Keso Lane in Listowel. So the request is just for the remaining last two parcels. So a number of the parcels have previously been approved through an existing bylaw. That bylaw does expire within a year, so there is a year for expiry, so that's why it's being asked to come back again. They didn't have time to register those previous plans, either through timing or things that came up, etc. So this is a request to extend that existing bylaw and just pass a new one. Just a couple of pictures of the subject property. So they are being lived in right now and occupied. The benefit being is they are existing there and they have been surveyed appropriately. And so just very similar discussion topics. It is within an existing subdivision. It is within the R5 zone and meets the road dwelling requirements. It is a previously bylaw that has been passed and it's expired, so they are requesting a new bylaw be passed. The units are built and surveyed, and this request does not need to go to Perth County. This is just an existing North Perth bylaw that needs to be passed and re-registered. And so it is my recommendation that North Perth Council approves the application for Henry Fry Euro Custom Homes on the exemption for part lot control on lands described as Block 66, RP 44M72, Listowel Ward, Municipality of North Perth, and that the approved bylaw be provided to the Municipality of North Perth and be registered on title. I'm wondering if that second portion is somewhat duplicative, but it would just be registered on title, so it doesn't need to be provided. I'm happy to address or answer any questions at this time.
Okay. Let me just take out that part of the resolution. Okay. And Block 67, I think you said 66, so I just want to make sure that we're on the same page here.
It is Block 67 for this one. I believe the previous
thank you.
one was 66.
All right, colleagues, questions or first comments? Not seeing any, so let's move forward with this resolution then. I'll modify it as a shade. That the Council of the Municipality of North Perth approves the application by Henry Fry of Euro Custom Homes for the exemption of part lot control on lands described as Block 67, RP 44M72, Listowel Ward, Municipality of North Perth, and that the approved bylaw be registered on title. Can I call for a mover? Councillor Richardson, thank you. Councillor Johnston will be our seconder on this one. Any discussion or debate? Seeing none, let's have that vote. And that is carried. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Garland, for your service tonight. Now, I think you're still with us. Goodness. All right. As item 9.1.4, Council is invited to forward a recommendation to approve with a collection of conditions to the County of Perth Land Division Committee or its designate related to an application requesting consent to sever lands in the Wallace Ward of the Municipality of North Perth, owned by Stardale Acres and represented by Patterson Planning Consultants. Mr. Garland, who's been with us so far, is with us again to provide an overview and recommendation. This time I'm tempted to ask you to sing your way through it for our entertainment. Welcome again, Planner Garland.
Thank you very much, Mayor Kasenberg. That would be disappointing both on your end and my end. I am here to introduce surplus farm dwelling application B4723. The owners and applicant, the owners are Stardale Acres, Ken and Vicki Stark, and the applicant and agent is Patterson Planning Consultants, represented by Scott Patterson. The location is Concession 3, Lot 47, Wallace Ward, Municipality of North Perth. One small correction, this is 6664, line 87. I believe the report says 6665, so just their property across the road. So that's where they own and reside. This is just the one across the road, and then just the date. Just a bit of a sketch, and this also requires a little bit of a correction on here. The lot to be severed is approximately, I'll say 1.69 acres. The land to be retained is 95.3 acres, not hectares, and it's 39.5 hectares. So just a bit of the applicant's sketch there showing the outline. It is a bit of an irregular shot, I'll say lot. They've tried to keep that within the parameters of an environmental features as well as maintain the amount of the farmland to be retained. So that does represent the existing house, septic, and the small shed outbuilding at the back as well too. So it is a bit of not a perfectly square lot, but they have tried to be respectful of that. That area at the front, also you'll see that's a proposed easement to be shared between the two properties. I'll go through that in a little bit more detail in the next couple of slides. So there is an easement proposed to be shared between both property owners, and there is an agreement being drafted. Just a report photo and aerial photo. So the proposed property to be rezoned and retained, or rezoned to be severed, is outlined as an A1 special. It will require to be a rezoning application at some point in time, so come back in front of North Perth Council. And then the area to be retained is an A162. That prohibits any kind of future residential being located on that property, so it doesn't allow for any kind of houses, dwellings, etc., just farmland purposes or farming purposes. Supporting comments and information that provided. MVCA did provide some comments because there is that environmental feature. That's a water course at the front of the property. They were satisfied with the application being submitted. One entrance is being considered for this, so they would retain the same entrances between the two owners. This is due to a large or a fairly significant water course through there, not the Maitland River, but it does have some deep geographic features associated with it, so it is a fairly large culvert there, as well as a decent retaining wall across there. There was an aggregate assessment completed as well too as part of this application. That's required as part of the lands is considered or potential aggregate through there. The aggregate report found there was approximately just over 48,000 tons through there. The smallest class of license is the Class A license. That's about 20,000 tons. So that's about 2 years worth if you were really to go for it. So overall, considering the type of aggregate operations we're talking about these days, that's not really a viable aggregate pit. So staff were considerate of that. There we go. I just thought I'd throw this slide in just to show a bit of the aggregate that we're talking about through there. So that's the aggregate that was assessed as part of the ARIP applications, the aggregate resources information. Very, very small on the front portion of the property, really limited as well because of the environmental feature and the water course flowing through there also. So here's just a couple pictures of the property. So that's that culvert and that retaining wall that we're talking about with the crossings. So to limit the amount of crossings going in there, staff were in favor of that easement discussion, just to limit the amount of impact to that feature as well too, and the cost going on. So that's a pretty decent sized retaining wall. You can see the blocks in there. Those are usually about 2 feet higher or so. So we're looking at roughly 8 to 10 feet of retaining wall height there. So that's a pretty decent height. And then also the notice that has gone up on the post as well too. Policy summary, so it does meet the provincial policy statement as it relates to surplus farm dwellings, as well as the protection of farmland and the mineral aggregate. The County of Perth official plan does provide policies under section 5.6.1.3.1, which is also met, and there is a rezoning requirement to address this in the future. And therefore, it is my recommendation that North Perth supports application file B4723 submitted by Patterson Planning Consultants, Inc. on behalf of Stardale Acres, and that the Municipality of North Perth Council recommends approval of consent application B4723 for the lands described as Lot 47, Concession 3, Wallace Ward, in the Municipality of North Perth, and forwards the conditions listed in the staff report dated February 5th, 2024, to the County of Perth Land Division Committee or its delegate designate. I'm happy to address or answer any questions from Council.
All right, thank you, Mr. Garland. Colleagues, questions or first comments? Councillor Blazek.
Thank you. Thank you for your report, and thank you through you, Mayor Todd. This agreement that you said was going to be signed via the access easement. What happens to this agreement down the road if these people decide to sell this property? Does that agreement go along with future property owners?
Through the mayor, in response to Councillor Blazek's question, the agreement is registered on title, so it does transfer on to future owners. It would typically speak to ownership, maintenance, things like that, access. So if the culvert should fail or require upgrades, it would then speak to that both parties would share those costs. It would be required regardless of the owner living there or the future agricultural operator. So both of them are required to have an access. So it's a bit of a maybe win-win because they both get to share the costs a little bit should anything impact that. So, but it does carry through with the title.
Anyone else with questions at this point? All right, I have a resolution for our consideration then as follows: that the Municipality of North Perth supports application file B47-23 submitted by Patterson Planning Consultants Inc. on behalf of Stardale Acres Inc. And that the Municipality of North Perth Council recommends approval of consent B47-23 for lands described as Lot 47, Concession 3, Wallace Ward in the Municipality of North Perth, and forwards the conditions listed in the staff report dated February 5th, 2024 to the County of Perth Land Division Committee or its designate. Can I call for a mover on this one? Councillor Anstett, thank you. Councillor Blazek will be our seconder. Any discussion or debate? Seeing none, let's have that vote. And that is carried. Thank you. Again, Mr. Garland, thank you. Let's turn now to reports from the Corporate Services Department as item 9.2.1. We could be wrapping up the 2024 budget for the municipality of North Perth. A lot of work has gone into the preparation of this budget from staff stakeholders and certainly from Councillors Neil Anstett as chair and Mark Nordum as vice chair. Our thanks in advance are extended to them. I particularly want to point out the dedication on her last budget with the municipality, since she is soon retiring, of Deputy Treasurer Becky Belfour for all of her work, both with this budget and for many years worth of budgets. And it's personal. We've worked together for quite a while now. At this time, I'm going to invite 2024 Budget Chair Neil Anstett to give some brief comments and give him discretion to call from the Treasury as he needs. Councillor Anstett.
Thank you, Mayor Kasenberg, through you. And again, yes, thanks to everyone involved in this process. Very long and arduous one, but I think it was very worthwhile in the end. Thanks again to Becky and Ashton for their support, and also Vice Chair Nordum. So as everyone, I trust everyone's had a chance to review the package that was in the report that was in the council package this evening. So everyone will remember we started this process earlier this year, August 28th, 2023. That way we had a chance, all of council had a chance to get familiar with what was going to be presented in the upcoming meetings. September 13th, we had our budget visioning session. And again, that was when we gave direction on what we would like to see in terms of operating and capital budgets that we would like to see addressed. In addition to that, public consultation was very important in this process, as everyone will know. And we had that open at the end of January as well. And there's also a YouTube video, which Vice Chair Nordum and myself went through the capital and operating budgets along with the tax implications from this budget as well. If there's any comments that Deputy Treasurer Becky Belfour or Treasurer Ashton Romani would like to make, I'd invite them at this time, but thank you.
To our staff, would you like to add anything to Councillor Anstett's comments at this point? Just for old time's sake, Becky?
Oh, sorry. Apologize for that. It was a good year. As Neil said, we got started early and we ended up with a really good year end and finishing sooner than we had anticipated with the new software. And I think council came in at 6.58% increase on the municipal levy, which is a good number for the 2024 budget year. So I thank council for all their support over the last almost 9 years. And I look forward to my future and seeing you all in the future. Take care and best wishes.
Thank you, Ms. Belfour. We will miss you. Colleagues, any questions or comments about the report or the action of approving the budget tonight? Are we ready for that resolution? Councillor Rothwell.
Thanks very much, Mayor Todd, and thanks to our chair and vice chair for the budget committee, and certainly the staff as well. I note this past week in the listable banner, the editorial was specifically regarding municipal budgets. And frankly, we couldn't thank our municipal local media anymore in terms of getting the point across of the challenges that we have in our time across municipalities and the importance that municipalities do in people's everyday work and life. So it's very timely, that article, and those that haven't read it, I encourage you to do so. But again, I'll certainly be supporting the budget, and thanks to all the work of our chair, vice chair, our staff, and certainly members of council. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Councillor Rothwell. Anyone else wishing to make first comments on this one? I think we have woven our way to this point. This is the pivotal point, right? All right, let's consider the resolution then as follows: that the Council of the Municipality of North Perth approves the 2024 municipal budget with a general tax levy of $19,793,746 for municipal purposes, and a stormwater management levy of $285,000 for this purpose. And further, that the Council of the Municipality of North Perth approves the 2024 business plans in conjunction with the 2024 budget. I think it's pretty customary that we ask the chair and the vice chair to second, so moved and seconded by Councillor Anstead and Councillor Nordum. Any discussion or debate? Let's have the vote. And that is unanimously carried. Councillor Johnston wants to clap. I think it's a good idea. Again, we pay tribute to the many staff who've worked on this, and certainly we've encountered that transition to new software, which provided some challenges, I think. Occasionally I'd walk in on meetings where they were talking about the budget software. So we're grateful that so much of that was ironed out this year. And again, to staff, thank you for all of your support. To Councillor Anstead, thank you for your admirable work on this budget. It was a difficult year to budget for. We've seen this in municipalities all around us. So we're grateful that we got it to where it was a reasonable point. Now, this brings on the excitement of choosing a chair and vice chair for the next year. And I believe Councillor Anstead would like the floor on this one.
Thank you, Mayor Kasenberg, through you. I would move that we appoint Councillor Nordum as the chair of the next 2025 Budget Committee.
We try not to give you a chance to say no, but if you're willing, we would be...
Yep, I will very much gladly accept.
All right. Are there any others who wish to be considered for chair of the Budget Committee for 2024? That was a little optimistic. All right, let's move on to the vice chair. It says co-chair in the resolution, but I assume that we mean vice chair. Generally, in our budget process, yes, the treasurer is confirming vice chair. Thank you. All right, this is a tough moment. Anyone willing to serve as vice chair or a nomination from the floor to that end? I see these stares across the table that are making me laugh at this point. Councillor Duncan. Let me
I'd
get,
like to nominate Councillor Blazek.
okay, Councillor Blazek. Does it work for you, or is it, yes? That was the politest. All right. So we have a nominee in Councillor Blazek. Thank you for accepting that. Anyone else wishing to serve or be considered to serve as vice chair? What I see is councillors running out the door at this point. That's my expectation. All right. So is it council's consent then that we proceed to resolution and consider as we understand our candidates? All right. Resolution reads as follows. The Council of the Municipality of North Perth appoints Councillor Mark Nordum to be the chair of the Budget Committee for 2025. I think that's the way this should be worded, right? And further, that the Council of the Municipality of North Perth appoints Councillor Sarah Blazek to be the vice chair of the Budget Committee for 2025. Moved by Councillor Rothwell, seconded by Councillor Anstead. Any discussion or debate or running for cover? All right. Then I think we can have that vote.
No going back, no.
That's right. And that is unanimously carried. Colleagues, thank you for being willing to serve. Thank you for being willing to serve. It's appreciated. All right, we have a budget chair and vice chair for 2025. I think council should give them a little bit of encouraging applause at this point, don't you? All right, onward. Now, let us turn to item 9.3 on our agenda, in this case, a report from the Facilities Department. As item 9.3.1, council is invited to consider and approve a new ICE allocation policy. I see that Mr. Newell has queued up at the podium to introduce council to a revised policy, or is it? It's pretty much brand new, isn't it? Mr. Newell, the floor is yours. Let me get the camera on you here, sir. It is on you. Off you go.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor Kasenberg and members of council. Further to what you were saying, the municipality has not had an ICE allocation policy in the past, so this is a first for us. Historically, we have allocated ICE by reviewing previous year's allotment from user groups, and then meeting with user groups, collaboratively discussing upcoming season schedules. So that is the process that we have had in the past. It hasn't been prescribed to us. With the addition of the Steve Kerr Memorial Complex, Elma Logan Rec Complex, and the Wallace Community Center, North Perth is fortunate to have a variety of ICE options to help meet the needs being requested of our community. Each of those arenas has a very high quality of ICE at it, at each of our arenas. However, the amenities that go along with each facility are not equal. By that I mean the size of dressing rooms, spectator seating, dry land training, warm-up areas, all contribute to the ice rental experience for users and their fans. The demand for primetime ice at Steve Kerr Memorial Complex has exceeded the supply, and as such, staff require a process to manage the needs of the user groups. Over the last year, staff, volunteers, user groups, and elected officials have been working on developing a policy which will formalize and support equitable allocation of ICE to user groups based on their registration numbers and residency. The process has involved a review of other municipalities' policies, input from user groups, feedback from the Recreation Advisory Committee, and the implementation of an ad hoc committee for the policy finalization. The Recreation Advisory Committee passed a resolution recommending that this be brought to council after the final step, which was the ad hoc committee, and then RAC's recommendation. One thing I did want to point out in the attached document, which was the ICE allocation policy 8.5, item 8.5 on there, it says additional ICE for non-eligible organizations Right below that, it says minor ice shortages, and there's a line that says remove. Unfortunately, we didn't remove that part, so it's still there. But those bullet points are included in other sections, and the reason we removed it is it was just duplicating what was already said. So the recommendation would be to accept the policy as amended versus as proposed. Be happy to answer any questions.
All right, thank you, Mr. Newell. So we are removing section 8.5, is that correct?
Correct.
Thank you.
Yes.
All right. Colleagues, questions, first comments? Councillor Rothwell.
Thanks very much, Mayor Todd, and thanks for the report. I want to take the opportunity to thank the Recreation Advisory Committee and counts and staff to come up with this work. I understand the heavy lifting that was done by members of the RAC Committee, and certainly Councillor Blazek and Councillor Anstett, as well as their folks that are on that committee. There was a lot of work. I understand that there was much discussion with some of the user groups, and I believe that having this policy in place will help our community and certainly staff in that allocation of ice through our three arenas. So thank you very much to our committee and staff.
Thank you, Councillor Rothwell. Anyone else with questions or first comments? All right, I have a resolution as follows, that the Council of the Municipality of North Perth directs staff to implement the ice allocation policy as presented. Moved by. Indeed, that's what I anticipated. Councillor Blazek will move and Councillor Anstett will be our seconder. Any discussion or debate? Seeing none, let's have that vote. And that is carried. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Newell. I know that the team has been through quite a bit of work to get this to this stage, and it's much appreciated, as Councillor Rothwell has indicated. That brings us to item 10 on our agenda. Councillors, do any of you wish to commission reports from our staff or from our committees at this hour? Councillor Rothwell.
Thank you. Sorry. Thanks, Mayor Todd and Council. I've just signed up for the Ontario Good Roads Association Conference, which is in April. And I understand that there's an opportunity for municipalities to make delegations to various ministers as part of that conference. And I believe it's the end of February or the first week in March when those delegation requests have to be submitted. And I was wondering if we could ask CAO Snell and to work with staff in terms of any specific delegations that we should be making during that time. I know that staff and certainly Mayor Todd, as part of County Council, made delegations at the Roma conference on various issues and so on, but I'm just wondering specifically on a Good Roads one, given our master transportation plan, if there may be issues that we would like to have delegations come forward to Ministry of Transportation in particular. But if there's the will of council, I would appreciate that. Thank you.
All right. Shall I turn to CAO Snell just for quick feedback? To me, it strikes me what we may want is a resolution saying that staff should evaluate whether there are any positions that we have that warrant advocacy to delegations and give them authority to act on this. Does that sound sort of generally okay? CAO Snell, did you want to offer comment?
Certainly we can do that. I'm just trying to see if I'm not sure I've seen the Good Roads email for that, but I will take a look. It's probably with one of us, so I will check with Public Works staff as well tomorrow, but we can certainly do that and bring it back to the February 26th council meeting.
Okay. Do you want direction from council on this one? Okay, so I think I kind of gave something of a resolution. I know that Clerk Carter and Clerk Heidi probably have got that down. You got something we can work with? Councillor Rothwell?
Just a piece of information. I just pulled up that website. So delegation requests close March 8th at midnight. So we have time for staff to work on something. It's not
Right.
pressing, but I just thought I'd bring it forward to give them opportunity. Thank you.
That's great. Good. Okay. So you have something. Do you want to read it into the record for us?
So I have that staff be directed to investigate potential delegation requests to Good Roads, and that staff report back to council at the February 26th council meeting.
Okay. So moved by Councillor Rothwell, seconded by Councillor Duncan. Thank you. Any discussion or debate? Seeing none, let's have that vote.
I'll be in favor.
All right. Councillor Nordum registers a manual vote. And are we missing someone?
I'm in favor.
Councillor Anstedt also getting booted, it seems. So Councillor Anstedt records a manual vote, and that brings us to the solution. That resolution is passed. Thank you. Anyone else wishing to ask staff for or committees of reports at this hour? All right. We have received no additional items of correspondence that we need to deal with as a council at this hour. At this point, we turn to consideration of bylaws that have been recommended to us for action. Tonight, we have 5 bylaws on our table. The enabling resolution outlines for each bylaw their number and purpose. And before I read the resolution for passing these bylaws, does any councillor wish to extract one or more of them for a more fulsome consideration? Or an individual vote for that matter? No? Okay, so we can deal with this in one effort. As follows, that the following bylaws are hereby passed. 9-2024 being a bylaw to amend bylaw 147-2022, which appoints persons, including council members, to various boards, committees, and associations. 10-2024 being a bylaw to authorize the execution of an amending agreement between the municipality of North Perth and His Majesty the King in right of Ontario as represented by the Minister of Infrastructure. 11-2024 being a bylaw to provide a drainage works and collection of the constructure assessments thereto. 12-2024 being a bylaw to exempt from part lot control block 66 plan 44M74 44R6072 part 1 through 22 list to award in the municipality of North Perth. And 13-2024 being a bylaw to exempt from part lot control block 67 plan 44M72 44R5925 part 1 through 4 list to award in the municipality of North Perth. Can I call for mover? Councillor Richardson, thank you. Councillor Duncan will be our seconder. Thank you. Any discussion or debate on those? Seeing none, let's have that vote. And that is carried. Thank you. That moves us to item 13 on our agenda. Do any councillors wish leave to give notice of motion? Not seeing anything there, so that brings us to item 14 on our agenda. For item 14, are there any announcements that would be of benefit to our community or that reflect well on North Perth at this time? And I don't know if we have any remote connected attendees at this point, but certainly that opportunity is available to them if we do. So, anyone have anything great to say? Should we comment on a successful fundraising event? Just very briefly, that there was a fundraising event that occurred in town, and it went very well. Councillor Johnston was involved. I know that. I think Councillor Anstedt was there as well. So thank you for your service and support of that cause. All right. Any other announcements? That moves us to item 15 on our agenda. We have 3 items to be considered in a closed session of council. I'll now read the resolution that both explains and enables our action to enter closed session as follows. The council proceeds in camera at 8:09 p.m. to address a matter pertaining to the following: a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board regarding Plan 441, Lot 18, Lot 21, 218 Winstanley Street, and a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board regarding Plan 44M10, Block 39 RP 44R 3986, Part 1, Nelson Avenue South, and litigation or potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunals affecting the municipality or local board regarding the Ontario Land Tribunal appeal. Can I call for a mover on this one? Councillor Richardson, thank you. Councillor Johnston will be our seconder. Any discussion or debate on this one? Seeing none, let's have that vote. And that is carried. We will move to closed session. Those who have not been invited to stay should exit the chamber at this point, and we will reconfigure our audiovisual components.